newly restored statue of Florence Nightingale, an iconic figure in the nursing profession, returns to her former graceful glory in the same spot she has stood since 1937.
It's a really significant, emotional moment, and for the profession of nursing, it means so much.
City officials and community members gathered to witness the unveiling at Lincoln Park. Florence Nightingale was a celebrated social activist and laid the foundation for professional nursing. Many former and current nurses say Florence Nightingale set the standards that the profession continues to follow and improve upon today. They say the newly restored statue will serve her memory well.
Because she's in a perfect setting, and she should stay there as a beautiful woman in a beautiful spot.
Over the years, the statue's hands and the oil lamp she held were severely damaged. It also suffered from hairline fractures, vandalism, and graffiti. So the Department of Recreation and Parks, Cultural Affairs, Councilman Gil Cedillo, and the community came together to get it restored.
This particular sculpture acknowledges, recognizes, and helps tell the story of the role, the really important role that nurses play in the human condition.
The massive restoration included an intense chemical peel. New molds were also created for her hands, which were structurally reinforced. A wall surrounding the 9-foot stone statue was also built. And to protect her from the elements, the statue has been waterproofed and has been covered with a special coating that makes it easier to remove graffiti without causing any damage.
We're reclaiming the park. It's one of a half a dozen things that we're doing to transform this park and make it open and accessible to the entire public.
And officials hope this newly restored Florence Nightingale will be the main attraction. I'm Yana Kay for LA This Week.
City officials also took the opportunity to add new landscaping, including water-tolerant plants and roses. In this week's list of things to do, the Hollyhock House reopens. Kids learn the art and craft of movie trailer editing. And date night, how about a play on Valentine's Day? Walk right in, as in Frank Lloyd Wright. The famed Hollyhock House, designed by the iconic architect, has been closed for restoration work. But on Friday, February 13th, it will reopen for free self-guided tours. For one night only, 24 hours to be exact, the public will be invited to visit from 4 p.m. on Friday the 13th to 4 p.m. on Saturday the 14th. The admission fee will be waived until 11 a.m. Saturday. Visitors are invited to share their photos via social media with the hashtag #RightAtNight. After its reopening, the Hollyhock House will resume regular operating hours from Thursdays through Sundays for an admission fee. The National Historic Landmark is located at Barnsdall Art Park at 4800 Hollywood Boulevard. Go to barnsdall.org for details. And when was the last time you went to the theater? On Valentine's Day, take your date to East West Players Farce, Washer Dryer at the David Henry Wang Theater in Little Tokyo at 120 Judge John Iso Street. Why is Sonia so hesitant to introduce her new husband, Michael, to the people in her building? Why does the doorman keep calling her about a package in the lobby? Tempers and misunderstanding flare and mayhem ensues as the arrival of Michael's mother, some nosy neighbors, and Sonia's best friend force Michael and Sonia to reevaluate their relationship. The 2-hour play starts at 8 p.m. Go to eastwestplayers.org. Kids ages 10 through 14 are in for a treat as the Hammer Museum hosts Long Story Short, the art of editing movie trailers, on Sunday, February 15th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Students venture inside the art and craft of movie trailer editing, exploring the concept of summarizing a 2-hour movie in a matter of minutes. The instructor, John Lefkovich, is an award-winning filmmaker and editor in film and television advertising. The class is being offered for free in collaboration with 826LA. Reservations are encouraged as there is a waiting list already. The Hammer Museum is located at 10899 Wilshire Boulevard. Go to workshops.826la.org. And that's a look at some upcoming things to do. When it comes to some of the city's best cycling routes, the Valley may not immediately come to mind, but that could all be changing. This was no race, but a relaxing day of bike riding in the West San Fernando Valley.
Went to this last year. It was a lot of fun. Had a good turnout.
This was the second annual Blumenfield Community Bike Ride that took cyclists on an 8-mile ride from Councilman Bob Blumenfield's field office at Van Owen Street in Reseda along the Los Angeles River and back down along the Orange Line route on Victory Boulevard.
It's a chance to bring together a coalition of folks to take a nice, fun bike ride through the 3rd Council District and see different elements of the district together.
For Garrett Hennessy, events like this give him and his kids a chance to bond.
I just wanted to bring the kids out for a nice bike ride with the community and spend some time with the family.
The ride also promotes health and fitness and community pride.
I'm in a fitness program. I just lost 100 pounds, so this time I'm going to stay in shape. Just have fun and ride around in our community here in Reseda and all over.
In fact, the Valley may just be the next nexus of new public transportation projects and pedestrian bikeways. Councilman Blumenfield recently joined LA Department of Transportation officials to host a town hall meeting to highlight what the mayor's Great Streets program has in store for the Valley's public spaces, as well as to hear from residents on their transit priorities and ideas.
I'm a strong supporter of alternative modes of transportation and like to use the bike whenever I can and also the metro and encourage other people to do so as well.
With the next car-free block party, better known as Ciclavia, coming to the Valley in March for the first time in the event's 4-year history, residents are eager to show off to their neighbors in the South just what their neighborhoods have to offer. The next Ciclavia in the Valley takes place Sunday, March 22nd in the communities of North Hollywood and Studio City. That's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ellen Chang. A reminder that you could catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook, and our Twitter handle is @LATW35. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
If you're in an accident, just stay. Call 911. Help if you can. You might save someone's life. Obey the rules of the road.
Hi, I'm Kevin from Chatsworth, offering you a taste of New Orleans since 1986. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Blumenfield, Bonnet, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Weezer, Caress, Krikorian, Labange, Martinez, O'Farrell, Parks, Price, Wesson. 10 members present, a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. Sergeant of Arms, will you clear the queues on either side of the chambers? That's first order of business.
Commit approval of the minutes.
Mr. Englander moves. Mr. Bonnet seconds. Next item.
Committed to resolutions for approval.
Mr. Price moves. Ms. Martinez seconds.
Mr. President, today is Tuesday, and now would be the time for the flag salute.
I'd like to all rise, if we would, right now, this time. I'd like to ask in the Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. O'Farrell, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Place your hand over your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Members, if you could direct your attention to the agenda. And clerk, let's run through the agenda right now.
Mr. President, first there's a request to continue item 27 to February 17th.
Without objection.
Item 1 is an item noticed for public hearing. There are cards on that item.
So hold that.
Items 2 through 25 are items for which public hearings have been held.
All right, 2 through 25 members. I do have Mr. Englander. Would you call those together, Mr. Englander?
Correct, yeah, 22 and 25 will call together and hold on the desk if we could.
Very well. Any other members? Have you checked your... So 2 through 25. See no other ones on items 2 through 25. So let's open the roll 2 through 25. All right, we're going to have a roll call 2 through 25. Julie, is that okay? The computer's not working. Is that okay, Madam City Attorney or Mr. City Attorney? Roll call 2 through 25.
Yeah. Blumenfield?
Council members, we have an equipment problem. So roll call, it's a voice vote. 2 through 25.
Aye.
Bonin?
Aye.
Buscaino?
Aye.
Englander? Weezer? Mr. Koretz? Mr. Krikorian? Mr. Labange?
Aye.
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. O'Farrell?
Aye.
Mr. Price?
Aye.
10 ayes.
10 ayes. So those matters have now been approved. Item number 3, I request to go forthwith. Next item.
Mr. President, for items 2, 3, and 4, those ordinances will be held over for second reading for 1 week, if not reconsidered with 12 votes.
12 votes if they do arrive. Thank you so much. Next item.
Items 26 through 40 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Without objection. Forthwith on 28. For consideration. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I apologize, members. We have a minor difficulty. Patrice, I'm going to turn it back to you for the roll call on this.
Well, Mr. President, at this time, there are cards on items 26, 28, 29, and 30, and 39.
So we'll hold that on the desk. Those are specials. Any specials, members? Any specials on those?
Through what numbers? 40.
I'd like to hear it a little louder there, Mr. Parks. Which one?
I just want to know what band.
What the band we're in. Okay, good. Mr. Koretz?
Item 34.
34 for Mr. Koretz. Any other specials on that? Okay, we're going to take a voice vote again. So let's open the roll for the voice vote.
Mr. Blumenfeld. Mr. Bonin. Mr. Buscaino.
Yes.
Mr. Englander. Mr. Koretz. Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you.
Aye.
Mr. Labange.
Aye.
Mrs. Martinez. Mr. O'Farrell.
Aye.
Mr. Parks.
Aye.
Mr. Price.
Aye.
Mr. Fuentes.
Fuentes, aye.
12 ayes. No, 0 noes.
Next item.
Supplemental agenda items 41 and 42 are items for which public hearings have been held.
41 and 42. Any specials on 41 or 42, members? 41, 42. See none. Votes for
Mr. Blumenfeld. Mr. Bonin. Mr. Buscaino.
Aye.
Mr. Englander. Mr. Fuentes. Mr. Koretz. Mr. Krikorian. Mr. Labange, sorry.
That's okay. Okay. Yes.
Ms. Martinez. Mr. O'Farrell. Mr. Parks. Mr. Price. 12 ayes.
Okay. Next item.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Can we send items 41 and 42 forthwith? But before I do that, I want to acknowledge Deputy City Attorney Justin Howderman. Thank you, Justin, for your guidance on these issues. Forthwith on those items, please. 41, 42.
Without objection.
Items 43 through 45 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes required for consideration.
Without objection. Say, Mr. Parks.
I'd just like to get an explanation what it covers. Okay, 45 special.
We're going to hold it on the table. We've got to get a city attorney over here. Thank you.
I'd hate to vote on it and not know what it is.
Any other specials, members? Madam Clerk, so on the balance, we can vote on those right now?
Yes. Mr. Blumenfeld. Mr. Bonin. Mr. Buscaino. Mr. Englander. Mr. Fuentes.
Fuentes, aye.
Mr. Koretz. Mr. Krikorian. Mr. Labange.
Aye.
Ms. Martinez.
Aye.
Mr. O'Farrell. Mr. Parks. Mr. Price. Mr. Weezar. 13 ayes. And Mr. President, there's a request to send item 33 forthwith.
33 forthwith. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. President, now that there's 13 members, do you wish to reconsider items 2, 3, and 4, the ordinances?
Yes, that's for the ordinances, certainly. All right. That's without objection. We're back on? Okay. All right, we're going to vote on the consideration now. We're back on. The system is working. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
13 ayes. Next would be on these ordinances. Any specials on those ordinances? We're going to vote on the ordinances. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
So ordered. Next item.
Mr. President, that brings council to presentations or items called special.
Yeah, I want to call something special right now. Mr. Englander asked that this be taken up at this time.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, council members Joe Buscaino and I guess that was plural, just had a press conference outside, and we're asking for your aye vote on these companion bills number 22 and 25. The city of Los Angeles experiences roughly 40,000 1,000 traffic collisions each and every year. 50% of those, nearly half, are hit-and-run crimes. We relabeled this last year. These are no longer accidents, Mr. President. These are crimes. When somebody hits somebody on the side of the road and leaves them there to die, leaves them there like a wounded animal, it's inhumane and it's a crime. So what we're doing here today and asking for your support is two things. First, we're going to utilize social media and put the information out there utilizing Nixle, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're asking our technological partners with Uber and Lyft, our taxi cab companies, the city family, the sanitation workers that drive trash trucks that are out there, anybody with a dispatch system, our taxi drivers, our bus drivers, to share that information, to put the information out there when they have the year, make, model, description of one of these heinous crimes. When they have the information or a partial license plate, the color of a vehicle, to put closure to the family. 27 people last year were killed in the city streets by hit-and-run crime. 144 people were seriously injured. And with that, I'd like to recognize the Los Angeles Police Department Emergency Operations Division, our traffic section. If you can please stand and be recognized. These are the men and women who are out there every single day, 24/7, putting their life on the line, investigating these incidents, and often they are the first responders and first on the scene to help one of these victims, to confront and console a family, to break the news of what happened, to work alongside with the fire department and rescue ambulance, to bring them to the hospital. All too often, they see firsthand what they've never been trained to see, and they have to take that home with them as well. And so I want to thank you so much for everything that you do for all of us. I'd also like Joe Buscaino to share our companion legislation with a standing reward once we have the information and we've been able to get the public's input utilizing all these information sources.
Thank you, Mitchell, for your guidance and your leadership on these two items before us here, colleagues. You know, there are, and Mitchell, your leadership on this, really appreciate you being on the forefront of doing whatever we can to solve the hit-and-run epidemic in our city streets. There are, colleagues, a number of distinctions where I wouldn't mind Los Angeles claiming the #1 spot. But being #1 in hit-and-run crimes in this entire country is not one of them. In a city where we all spend so much time in our cars, accidents are definitely going to happen. I saw many firsthand when I was assigned to the West Traffic Division when I was with LAPD. Being involved in an accident, as we often hear, is not a crime. But when it becomes a crime, the minute the driver flees the scene and fails to render aid, and both the law and basic human decency required. We experienced 20,000 hit and runs. So that's 20,000 drivers in the city of Los Angeles make a decision to leave the scene of an accident. There exists a culture of driver apathy in Los Angeles where too often motorists display a complete lack of responsibility and concern, and in some cases leave a fellow human being to die in the street. This is completely unacceptable. We need to begin to change the mindset of drivers, change the culture so that fleeing the scene of an accident isn't even considered as a viable option. The Public Safety Committee, led by Mr. Englander, the report before you, our report in committee that's before you today, will do just that, creating a standing cash reward for any tip that leads to the identification, apprehension, and conviction of a driver who commits a hit-and-run crime. Very similar, colleagues, to the same way we offer a reward for vandalism and illegal dumping. So I'll break it down for you. A $1,000 reward will be available for the tips on hit-and-run crimes resulting in property damage only. $5,000 reward on tips on hit-and-run crimes resulting in minor injury. $25,000 reward on hit-and-run crimes that result in serious injury. And a $50,000 reward to be offered for tips result in hit-and-run crimes resulting in fatalities, as we often experience here in Chambers. The cost of our criminal justice system from conducting the investigation, prosecuting, and responding to these incidents is far more expensive than implementing this standing reward system, as we all do so for, as I mentioned, graffiti and illegal dumping. I want to thank Mr. Krikorian, Chair of our Budget and Finance Committee, for waiving this item and coming straight to the floor here. There is a sense of urgency in doing whatever we can to curb, literally curb hit-and-run crimes in the city of Los Angeles. Mr. Englander and I, and along with the DOT and also the LAPD, we plan to institute a media campaign to educate the public about the new rewards by blasting this out on billboards, transit shelters, our taxi cabs, social media, and other arenas, not to mention the LAPD website. Mitch and I have been really grateful to work alongside Assemblymember Gatto, who will make another effort to institute a statewide yellow alert system and to offer an incentive to come forward with information. And that information will be immediately transmitted across the city through our freeway network to help apprehend cowardly hit-and-run fugitives. I'm urging all of our colleagues here to approve this item, and I'm urging all Angelenos to get involved and help us combat this ugly culture of driver apathy. If you see something, say something. Pull over if you see an accident, and do the right thing, and get the information over to the Los Angeles Police Department. You will be rewarded for doing your part to ensure public safety in our city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Mr. Englander.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joe. With that,
Mr. Englander, I want to call on Mr. Krikorian.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I just want to rise in strong support of the efforts of Mr. Englander and Mr. Buscaino, and to thank them for their leadership on this issue that's critically important to all of us in all of our districts. And members, you know, time and again, we have family members of murder victims standing at that podium as we ask for a reward. And we see the wrenching grief of a parent who's lost a child. And there's nothing that we can ever do to relieve that family of that grief. But it's clear every single time that happens that that grief is magnified because of their need for some closure and justice. That the sense that there's a person out there who took that child from that family and that person is not being brought to account just simply magnifies the grief that that family experiences tenfold. And when a family loses a child to a hit-and-run driver, their grief is precisely the same. Whether it's formally a murder or a different kind of crime, the pain that that family suffers is exactly the same. And so for exactly the same reasons, we must do everything we can to bring these criminals to justice. And the steps that Mr. Buscaino and Mr. Englander are talking about today are a very important step in that direction, and I want to applaud it and speak in strong support. I want to offer an idea to you as a friendly amendment, and if it's not, we can do it separately. But in addition to all the outreach to the many sources that Mr. Englander described, I think it would be helpful also to do similar kind of outreach to auto repair and body shops in the Los Angeles area. And if you would agree, Mr. Englander, I'd like to have the police department and the CLA report back to us on the feasibility of having a reporting system that goes out instantly. When we have identification of a car, whether by description or better by license plate, but usually it's just by description. We have a videotape of a car fleeing the scene or whatever. To be able to notify body shops and auto repair places in Los Angeles of that, and also let them know that a reward is available, it may be an opportunity for us to provide some additional leads to law enforcement when somebody inevitably brings that broken windshield or broken front end in for repairs. So if you would like us to pursue that.
Thank you for that. In fact, we were looking into that. San Francisco started that, and it's been successful. And so not only will we accept that friendly amendment and have that part come back to public safety and see how we can roll that out, I think it's exactly what we were looking into. So I welcome that.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Two things in closing, members. First, I'd like to thank our captain, Fontanetta, who's here as well, and who's leading the great effort along with his men and women. And thank you so much, Captain, for everything you do. And lastly, next week is the 2-year anniversary, Mr. LaBonge, of Damian Kevitt's hit-and-run incident, the crime that occurred in your district, in fact, right off the 5 freeway in Griffith Park, where he was riding his bicycle with his wife. And a van hit him and dragged him a quarter of a mile. And while he was being drugged underneath the van, he was reaching up and hitting the van. They would not stop. And finally, he rolled out from under it. He lost his leg, but not his spirit. And on April 19th, he is having his 2nd anniversary of his Finish the Ride, where you can ride, run, walk, and roll. And it's going to be starting at 4810 Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood and finishing at the Autry Museum. We're asking everybody to put this in their newsletters and information out as well. And Damian joined us today in phenomenal spirits. He's a true leader for this, and we thank you again in his name to supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Regular. And also, just, Mr. Regular, if you could on that, look with LA DOT. They do still have cameras at a number of intersections, and I don't know if that would help in the cause at all.
So what we're doing with that, and I can bring you up to speed on that. In fact, we had another motion that was approved by council that we partnered on. We're using the ADSAC systems, changing it out for digital instead of analog, doing a split feed, and we're going to start recording and capturing 430 intersections throughout the city of Los Angeles.
Very good. Thank you for your leadership, Mr. Regular, Mr. Buscaino, and Mr. Krikorian for that. Seeing other speakers on the queue, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Next item. Forthwith on both motions.
Item number 1, call special for cards.
John Walsh, please.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Item 1, this concerns building and safety report, nuisance abatement, $734. Yeah, you do a very good job on abating nuisances. Where you don't do a good job is in handing out liquor licenses to drunk drivers who kill us. HollywoodHighlands.org. Ban all new liquor licenses. That's the way to get rid of drunk drivers.
No other cards on this item here. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Next item.
Item 26, call special for cards.
Madam Clerk, I have Anna Ruiz. Is Anna Ruiz in the audience? You fill the card out for item number 2. I know. So I'm calling item 26. Please go to the ropes over there on the side. They'll help you. All right, Madam Clerk, this looked like a 2. It's a 1. So we're going to re-vote on that issue here. May I correct that? Reconsideration on item 1 without objection. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
All right, it's before us. Miss Ruiz, Anna Ruiz.
Ruiz.
Thank you, Miss Ruiz.
And I just want to know that fine that you are giving me, I never got anything on the mail. because you sent it to Mr. Argumedo. But I have lived in that house for 38 years.
We do have someone from Building and Safety who will be able to assist you. And as the representative of Building and Safety identifies herself, she can go over here to the side. If there's a problem, she needs more time, please come back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Anna. We're going to hold that item on the desk. Thank you until they inform us. Now, let's call 45 right now. 45.
Item 45, call special by Councilmember Parks.
Mr. Parks.
Dion's going to...
Dion, please. Thank you, Mr. Parks. Mr. Dion.
Just to clear up any confusion on this one, item 45 involves a friendly 245 of a matter in which council waives jurisdiction of a Board of Airport Commissioners action regarding a settlement providing that Los Angeles be entitled to pump nearly 4,000 acre-feet of water per year for use on the LAWA land and the right to store imported water in the basin and subsequently export it for use elsewhere, subject only to irretrievable losses as may be determined to occur in the process. There is no impact on the general fund.
Thank you very much. No one further. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
15 ayes. Next item.
Item 26, call special for cards.
Mr. Walsh. Thank you. No speakers on the queue. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
Fifteen ayes.
15 ayes. Thank you, Julie. Thank you. Next item.
Item 28, call special for cards.
Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. This is the naming of the intersection at East Manchester Avenue and South McKinley Place as Pastor Leroy Haley Square. We can't think of a better name for that area. We're familiar with the great pastoral work that has been accomplished by Pastor Leroy Haley. And we think that a number of the other pastors, especially those who passed on, their names should also be on squares in South L.A., if only to remind people that black people used to live there until they were pushed out by Hispanics.
No speakers on the queue. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Next item.
Item 29, call special for cards.
Mr. Walsh, 29.
John Walsh at HollywoodHighlands.org, J. Walsh Confidential. This is very important. This is Time Warner Cable, the worst cable company in the world, who curse at us and send us bills with calling us assholes. You've seen that in the paper. This is, that's what the cable companies do. This is to install an address and security camera for the Venice Beach Boardwalk. This is Big Brother is watching you. We know that what they're trying to do is eliminate blacks and Hispanics west of La Brea. Now, how do I know so much about racism? Hey, I'm a white guy. We invented racism. Now they're going to have cameras there. They want curfews. They will do everything they can. And your three puppets, your three black puppets up here won't do a damn thing. They are now going to put in cameras, and they're not even going to have to pay for it, to watch black people. You could murder your mother if you have skin like mine in front of the camera. They're not going to do a damn thing. But if you look crooked or spit on the boardwalk and your skin is not white, then the racist LAPD police, some of them are gone, the racist LAPD police will jump on you. You know, when you try to get rid of the black salesman on the boulevard, you ended up losing in court. And now we have free speech because of that. Number one, we must not put any more security cameras. You don't have enough security cameras? Where are you going to be planting them? Up my ass next? My white ass? HollywoodHighlands.org. And there are 15 white asses up here.
All right. Let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Hold 1 second. Is there another card that I missed on this? Do not have any cards. So let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Mr. Labange, are you ready with your presentation?
Mr. President, thank you very much, members. This is someone who you know and who's helped you, but you probably never recognize him because he's been up in the air for well over 35 years with KFI and others. Let's hear it from Mike Nolan on his retirement. And as a traffic reporter, it's one of the key ingredients for our success in Los Angeles. I remember the late, great Bill King having some names like Malfunction Junction and all the way, but you know everything. And we should really hire him on a contract to do traffic engineering for us on our freeway because you've seen it all. He grew up here in Los Angeles, went to North Hollywood High School. He was very much a very special member of the community in the valley here, and he grew up before the 170 freeway was built. Just a big pile of dirt out there at Victory and Van Owen. Must have had a lot of fun during the summer playing out there. All the time in the work that he did through radio all over Orange County and throughout California, he always came back home here, once have a stead in Phoenix, Arizona. So, Michael, I wanted to salute you for your work and tenacity and endurance at KFI and the Coast, and a highly commendable, both working morning and afternoons, and the split shift for over two decades. And you're missed by many Angelinos now. Even though there's a Wayas and all that stuff in there, there's nothing like a great traffic reporter who knows the scene and who knows how to describe it in such a way that relates to the people. I wanted to honor you for this in KFI, and KFI has the largest voice of any radio station. In fact, a friend of mine who's since passed, when he was up in Canada, he heard all the way up KFI years ago, Charlie Turner, my buddy Charlie. But Michael, this is special for you, and I want to give a special tribute because the traffic reporters are the voices of Los Angeles, the voices that help people guide around situations and in emergencies like big fires or tragic earthquakes. You're the voice that tells us all what to do, and they know how to stay away from the police and public safety helicopters, and that's such a key thing. So, Michael, I salute you and present this commendation on behalf of Mayor Garcetti and the whole City Council. Let's hear it from Mike Nolan. Say a few words, Mike.
What you may or may not know is there will be one very much like this on my wall sitting right next to it. It was a proclamation that I was given on the very first morning I flew, August 12th, 1986, when I landed at Van Nuys Airport. It was signed by then-Mayor Tom Bradley, for whom I cast my earliest votes way back when in the early 70s. I was honored then. I am honored now. In the 40s, I was born a half a block off Van Nuys Boulevard. In the 50s, I remember when the 101 freeway ended just past Lankershim, taking the traffic off to Vineland by following the old Red Line tracks. In the 60s, as the councilman said, I played on the 170 when they were building it. In the 70s, I went to a broadcasting school right across the street from Musso and Frank's on Hollywood Boulevard. And in the 80s, I was honored to succeed my predecessor, Bruce Wayne, at KFI as KFI in the Sky. There are others who were in the sky before me at that time. Commander Chuck Street, Captain Jorge for ABC. Unfortunately, due to the changes in the business, their careers did not come to a clean end like mine did. And that's unfortunate, but they are everybody's deserving of this, as I am, as was my late colleague Mark Dennis at KFI Traffic. You might remember him as well. But as a born and bred Los Angeles person, I've loved this city. I've watched this city grow and change. And, council member, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael. And members, I often thought it would be a good thing. You know how sometimes Alex Trebek on Jeopardy has that contest, the college contest? How about if we got all our traffic reporters? And here's the question, okay, for $500. Name the off-ramp between Western and Crenshaw.
On what freeway?
Santa Monica Freeway. Arlington, okay, we'll get it to you. I'll work on it. I got to look for a job too, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Anyway, congratulations and thank you. Okay, I want to ask for reconsideration.
Mr. President, I apologize for being a little... I forgot to introduce his lovely wife, Lori, right here. Very special wife, Lori. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming
It's his first visit to City Hall, and we're going to go up to the tower in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on I think it's item 29, we want to vote on reconsideration. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Okay, and Mr. Previn, your 9 got confused as a 4. So...
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
It is Eric Previn, and I totally understand. Yesterday in the Budget and Finance Committee, $17 million was confused. It was actually $1.75 million. So there's a lot of that going around, and I absolutely apologize for that. I wanted to lend my voice as well to this idea that Time... This is 29 or 25, sir?
9.
Yeah, 29, right. That Time Warner... who are obviously our partners because they have almost a monopoly in some areas of our city. I just wanted to say that I appreciate them being expedited to do this project, which is to install something described as an emergency public address system, that part I'm very excited about. The security camera piece, which I think has probably been pinned on this from Mr. Bonin or Mr. Krikorian, I just hope is not going to be utilized in some way to, sort of enforce weird laws that are designed to disturb people who might be marring a vision of our boardwalk. I mean, I understand that we don't want illegal behavior and activity in our communities, and this could be used in that regard. Certainly London, the entire city of London, England, is wired for cameras to protect against various forms of terrorism and such. But obviously homelessness in LA County with 57,000 homeless at that last count, and I know it's in LA City it may be slightly less, but it's still rampant. I just want to be sure that we are minding that line, and also to point out that Time Warner needs to be scrupulously watched, and that is because at LA County, just to be specific, there is a franchise issue where they're supposed to pay the county a certain amount of dollars based on all the business they're doing with a license, and the county has had to sue them in repetition to get them to do right. And so in that context, I would just say, go ahead and approve this item. Let's get it done quickly, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's prepare to vote on that item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
We're going to move to we're going to move to item 30, Mr. Walsh. I've been informed you have 1 minute.
No, I had 1 minute under 1 and 2 minutes under 29. I think this is the third time I'm speaking. Or you can tell me something else I spoke about.
Just stay on the item.
First of all, this item concerns the death of Veronica and Cynthia Otreras. This, again, is drunk driving. And remember, we also, not just number one in drunk driving killings, we're number one in per square mile liquor licenses. And I'm sure that the guy who murdered and ran over these two women had been drinking from alcohol that he bought in a nightclub or in a liquor store. And incidentally, the cops do a damn shitty job of arresting people, owners, for selling alcohol to drunk people. How many licenses have been removed from people who were sold to drunks?
Thank you.
HollywoodHighlands.org.
Let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
We're now going to go to item 39. Mr. Previn, item 39. Eric Previn.
Thank you, sir. It is Eric Previn in reduced format for the Channel 35 viewership. I just wanted to say, sir, as a candidate for the CD2 Council District race and a resident of Studio City, I'm actually appreciative of the way that $100,000 is being earmarked here. And I believe this is, again, Mr. Bonin. Most of it seems to be going towards graffiti reduction and such. The only part that I would quibble with, and there are two parts that I will quibble with, so that's not quite fair, is that item 2 in this list says that they can basically, Public Works could make any corrections, clarifications, revisions, or fund transfer instructions, meaning it sounds to me like we will do this unless we decide to do something else with that money. And I would just hope that it is earmarked very, very specifically for what it's called out. And I would remind both Mr. Koretz and Mr. Bonin, who are really moral ballasts in this arena. They both have in their district, and this came up in a Budget Finance Committee meeting, buildings which are owned by AT&T that have not been cleaned up with graffiti work. And they even were joking, we got to get these guys to do it. So I would ask that AT&T step forward on the buildings that they have set up around town where they are not removing the graffiti I guess in relation to Mr. Bonin and Mr. Kretz's request, because they were both very, very specific about that. And finally, I just want to say, because I know we're running out of time, Time Warner and AT&T are both great operations. And on item 25 today, we saw that there might be $5 million in connection with the standard reward for hit and run, which everybody supports, especially me.
He is not talking about this item.
No, he's not. But he's asking that these guys, as lobbyists who do a lot of business in our community, offer to cover that $5 million, because that would send such a signal to the residents of Los Angeles City that these guys who are spending a lot of money to get things done here also care about the absolutely essential detail, like catching these criminals who would do a hit and run. Hit and run is the most abhorrent thing that anyone has ever really heard of. And so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's prepare to vote. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
We're going to move to item 34, which is Laura Linton, I think Marilyn Cohen, and Bennett Cohen. Please come forward.
And Mr. President, for item 34, motion 34A has been circulated.
And excuse me, Mr. President, for the council's information, this is a fair hearing matter requiring heightened attention to the speaker at the podium.
Please come forward.
Yes, thank you.
Identify yourself and start.
My name is Marilyn Cohen, and I am here speaking on behalf of Westwood South of Santa Monica Homeowners Association, which represents an area of 3,800 homes. Together with the West Side Neighborhood Council, we are speaking in support of the council members' motion today. The wall is on a uniquely shaped and bordered property in our community, adjacent to the massive traffic corridor at Olympic Boulevard, a few feet from a traffic signal, and adjacent to a bus shelter, which has become more of a homeless shelter. One homeless man came to her front lawn every morning to shower using her garden hose. Although her home is surrounded on the three other corners by taller walls and hedges 1 over 10 feet high, she has complied with the 42 inches height on 70% of the wall. There's a 19-inch slope on her property, and the slightly higher portion simply levels the wall on that slope. This case was not heard by the Area Planning Commission until 11:30 p.m. after 7 hours of considering other cases, and unfortunately they did not have before them the complete data.
Continue.
To make an informed decision. We applaud Councilmember Koretz.
In fact, let me stop you for 1 minute.
Sure.
Mr. Herman, you and sergeants, we have a disruption. He is interrupting the public. Individual came here to spend time to give their opinion. That cannot be tolerated in these chambers. So I'm sorry. If we could, we'll give you a few extra seconds, and I'm so sorry for the disrespect.
Thank you very much. We applaud Councilmember Koretz in proposing this motion. He has the support of the residents and organizations in the community in this action, and we are grateful that there will be a remedy for the unique circumstances presented by this case. And I have letters of support from the Neighborhood Council, the Homeowners Association, and the Overland Avenue Community Association. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Please come forward and identify yourself.
Thank you. My name is Bennett Cohen, and I've been asked to speak on behalf of the West Side Neighborhood Council regarding the motion to permit the wall at 2201 Prosser Avenue. The West Side Neighborhood Council has supported the request for this wall at each step of the appeals process. We are grateful for your motion to permit the exception based on special circumstances of the location of the home and the slope of the lot. Abutting the busy 6 lanes of Olympic Boulevard, the signalized intersection of Prosser and Olympic, and a bus shelter that has attracted transients, the resident has not built a tall wall like most of the homes along Olympic, but the wall that complies with the height limit except for a small portion on the sloping part of the lot. The residents have the support of the local Homeowners Association, the West Side Neighborhood Council, and other organizations in the community, and we are grateful that Councilmember Koretz has stepped up to offer much-deserved relief in these circumstances. Thank you.
Please come forward.
Hi, my name is Laura Linton. I'm the homeowner that spent the better part of the last 2 years trying to find a reasonable and lawful means of protecting my 2 babies and myself from the problems of living next to a very busy boulevard and a city-approved bus shelter which drew transients who often wandered into my yard. I've always complied with the law. I've secured permits for any work done to my home for the last 22 years. I sought advice from Building and Safety and pursued what I understood to be their suggested approach to the special circumstances of the location of my home. The wall that was built complied with the 42-inch height for walls in Los Angeles, with the exception of the small portion on the sloping portion of my lot towards the south. Unlike most of the walls in the nearby homes adjacent to Olympic Boulevard or the homes on the other corners of this intersection, I did not build a tall wall but tried to maintain the open and welcoming look of my community. I'm grateful to Councilman Koretz for seeking a means to resolve the problem which involves the safety of my family. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a situation where the homeowner clearly needed this fence for protection. The issue at hand is that on the Olympic side, it's entirely 3.5 feet. On the Prosser side, there's a slight slope, and so at its highest point, this fence is slightly over 5 feet. It's a 19-inch issue, and frankly, the technical reading of the law is 3.5 feet. The difference is not very visible to anyone. I think it really has no impact, and to ask her to remove this fence now, I think is somewhat absurd. I have gotten a lot of support from the community, and I'm doing this reluctantly because the community has asked me to do it. There's no one in this neighborhood other than the next door neighbor that has objected to this, but many, many people that have contacted me in its favor. And so I ask you to support this very modest variation. Thank you.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on that item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That's adopted as amended.
Madam Clerk, and where are we?
Item 1 was held pending CD8.
Mr. Parks.
Yes, I would just ask that we reconsider this, and once we reconsider, we're going to change the amount owed. Pardon?
Yeah, we don't need to reconsider anything.
We don't need to reconsider? Okay, let me just ask that the amount currently state $142 as the amount owed to the City of Los Angeles on this lien.
Okay, so Madam Clerk, what do we have to do? We'll just, okay, so it's my understanding we just vote on that item? Okay, cards were already taken. On item 1, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, that brings us now to general public comment. So if I could have a Jeff Emery, Jeffrey Roberts, please come forward.
Good morning. Can I hand you a document?
Yes, sergeants, would you please come get the document this gentleman has? They're coming. Just stay where you are. Hold his time. Start his time all over.
Unless I can hand it out, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it.
Okay,
I'll keep it. Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm the president of...
No, come on, there's another disruption.
Okay,
Go right ahead, sir.
Thank you. I'm the president of Beverly Hills Porsche. I'm moving my dealership to Los Angeles this year. It's going to provide about $40 million in tax revenue over the next 20 years for Los Angeles. I'm speaking because of the Nederlander deal, and my concern, if this is awarded to Live Nation, it will remove $20 million from the city. What I want to walk you through, we all know that the rent is that Nederlander is paying $20 million more in rent. The facility is the issue. If you look at the leased equipment, the sound equipment, the lights, things like that, Nederlander was leasing it, Live Nation was purchasing it. That is about $3.4 million that was not credited to Nederlander. That was a major mistake. A second mistake is the contingencies. Live Nation included $6.3 million in contingencies. Nederlander only included 1.5. If you add that back in the initial term, Nederlander is actually putting more money into the building. Thank you.
Yes, next.
Good morning, council members. My name is Jeffrey Roberts. I am a resident of Hollywood, and I have worked in the concert business for the last 16 years, and for 15 years prior to that in the financial industry. People want to make economics of the two Greek theater proposals more complicated than they are. The city has one source of revenue from this contract, and that is rent. That's it. The simple fact is that Nederlander AEG provides the city a minimum of $17.5 million in guaranteed rent more than the other proposal. That's an average of $875,000 per year to help fund Rex and Park programs citywide. As all of you know, since 2007, Rec and Park programs have been cut or drastically reduced. So my question is, how many of those programs could have been saved with the additional revenue that the Nederlander AEG proposal offers the City of Los Angeles? There are many other well-documented reasons to support the Nederlander AEG proposal, but on economics alone, I urge you to support the Nederlander. It is in the best interest of the...
Thank you. Mr. Walsh, Mr. Previn.
John Walsh at HollywoodHighlands.org. Grace Yee for City Council. See the expose last night about the liquor license for La Defense in Koreatown. Incidentally, in Koreatown, if you're black or you're Hispanic, you're not allowed in any bars. You're not allowed. It's a racist thing. And, of course, Herb is 100% behind it since he's getting Korean money on the sly. No on Amendment 1. No on Amendment 2. No on Amendment 1. No on Amendment 2. It gives Herb 5.5 years instead of 4. It eliminates the election day that we would have tomorrow, we're having in 3 weeks. It eliminates the runoff. And what do these limp dick liberals say? They say that it's going to increase the number of people voting the mayor's election by eliminating election days. No, it eliminates competition. No one on Amendment 1, no on Amendment 2, no on Amendment 1, no on Amendment 2. Anybody but Villaraigosa for Senate, HollywoodHighlands.org.
Okay, Mr. Previn, Mr. Wayne, Spindler, Mr. Herman, I'm sure is somewhere, so you guys can begin to come on down. Okay, Mr. Previn.
What's going on here, sir? 1 minute?
Yes.
And are you done with all the items? Or
No,
is
yes.
What about item 40, sir?
It's my understanding we're done. So why don't you take advantage of your 50 seconds?
Well, but there seems to be a leak in the system of sign-up, sir. I signed up on item 40. Item 40. Has that been clarified? We'll clarify later. I'll take 60 seconds now. And I'm very sorry, but it's not my confusion. I know what I signed up on. Thank you, sir. Yesterday at the Budget Finance Committee, item 1 was approved by all 5 members. Please, I urge you all to look closely. There's a group called 907 Shenandoah Investment LLC who've requested a $139,000 refund, and it was approved yesterday, and I assume we're in a mode where the mayor has a chance. This, in all my years, I've never seen anything more preposterous in my life. These guys apparently overpaid $140,000. Who in their right mind would ever overpay $140,000? And then they're getting it back immediately? I mean, this stinks to high heaven, sir, and I mean that in the nicest way. By the way, would you open
Thank you, sir. Now I need Wayne, and I know Mr. Herman is somewhere. Wait 1 second. Hold one. Mr. City Attorney, for clarification.
My understanding is that Mr. Previn's card on number 40 was submitted after it was voted on.
Okay. So, no. Mr. Spindler, you're up now.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for giving me a full minute. I understand the rules are going to be reduced to 25 seconds next week, so thank you for that full minute. I know this meeting is being ran the way it is to run the commentators out of here, limiting us, but freedom will not be silenced. Next March, the first Tuesday, there are 2 propositions on the ballot to amend the city charter. Vote no and no on those 2 evil charter amendments, because they're going to extend the reign of terror of the aforementioned president of the commission by 18 months. Finally, on your DWP bill, stop paying them. There are 2 class actions. You do not have to pay. Stop paying. Demand refunds. Thank you.
Mr. Herman.
You are contemptuous. There are malicious lies meant to deceive, cheat, and defraud. So what we can't always rely on is what comes out of someone's mouth, such as yours, Mr. Speaker. Leaving a troubling impression of how arrogant this government has become, how scornful, how insulting, and lack of intelligence, Mr. Englander. The hatred is obvious by their actions of comprehensive lies, as brought out in the Valley under Mr. Englander's category of special. You do not fall into that category. I'm sorry, Mr. Big Ears, but you fall in the category for uncomprehensiveness. So, as you are contemptuous and arrogant as a local government, vote no on Amendment 1, vote no on Amendment 2, and listen to the voting no, 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 no.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That concludes general public comment. Madam Clerk, that brings us where?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Consider those posted and referred.
That clears the desk.
Okay, announcements, members. Announcements. If everyone could rise, for everyone in the council chambers, rise for adjourning motions. Mr. Labange.
Thank you, members. I have 3 adjourning motions. John Jurdy, 75 years old, died too young. Tremendous Los Angeles architect who redefined urban spaces. Cancer was the cause of his passing. He took courses in engineering at UCLA and art and enrolled in the architectural program at USC. Combined with those 2 great schools, he rethought designs of our shopping malls and public spaces. I remember about 30 years ago working with him when I just started with the city. 35 years ago, he took the old red car power plant at Lafayette Park Place and Sunset Boulevard, which was just a little power plant, and turned it into his office. He also was the main architect for much of the '84 Olympic Games. He truly was a loved man. So sorry that he passed. He's survived by his wife, Janice Jurdy, and their children, Oliver, Jennifer, Maggie, Kate, Christopher, and 4 grandchildren. I ask we adjourn in memory of John Jurdy. Additionally, I ask we adjourn in memory of Stuart Stern, who was a very special screenwriter who wrote Rebel Without a Cause, the iconic 1955 classic with James Dean and Natalie Wood, filmed much around all of Los Angeles, including the historic observatory. Passed away of battle of cancer, 92 years old. He was a great veteran of World War II and also a teacher. He's survived by his wife, Marlee, and we ask that we adjourn in memory of Stuart Stern. Lastly, I ask we adjourn in memory of Ed Sable. Ed Sable was the founder of NFL Films. Originally, he just was a clothing store salesman and doing work in Philadelphia, but he loved the camera, and the camera was developed, and he'd shoot his son. And finally, there in 1962, he developed the opportunity to be the film for the NFL and the big game between the Giants and the Packers. And Pete Rozelle was then the commissioner, and they then incorporated NFL Films. And further on to that, each of the clubs took over and was a part of the league. The National Football League, NFL Films, is what really made the game a hallmark. Before there was videotape, the only time you saw the plays of the country was on Monday Night Football, and Howard Cosell was the voice of that, and that made the game so impressive. He also was great on camera angles and getting all the type of work that was done in creating such great cameramen. They won over 52 Emmys in his time with NFL Films. Tragically, his son Steve passed before he did. I knew Mr. Sable. I worked for NFL Films for 24 years, and he had two axioms. One was finish like a pro, and the other was show up on Vince Lombardi time. Vince Lombardi time, if the meeting was at 10 in the morning, we'd all have to be here at 9:45, 15 minutes before. Those is what made it go, and he truly is a wonderful man. He sent me a note a few years ago, which is so nice. He was retired in Arizona, and he survived by his wife, Audrey, of 74 years. I ask we adjourn a man of the greatest filmmakers of all time, the founder of NFL Films, Big Ed Sable. Thank you.
And Mr. Labange, I can't remember the name of the voice from.
Well, John Facenda, which is an interesting story. He was the Channel 10, I believe it was, Philadelphia newsmaker, who would say on the frozen tundra of Green Bay. And I remember in 1978 when I left my first job at the City Hall, I went into Philadelphia on 13th Street, and there in a room no bigger than this Space Square was John Facenda on a chair with the big screen, no script, smoking a Pall Mall, and then articulating the beauty of what the National Football League athletes are and the dance of all greatness. So it was really tremendous how they did it, and it was just real people who loved the game but who had artists in their soul.
Unbelievable legacy. Yeah. I'm still looking to my right, other adjourning motions to my right. Now I'm going to the left. I don't see any other. With that said, members, this meeting is adjourned. See you tomorrow.
With the film to a United flight to get